this again. Now it's gonna work. You can't ever figure this crap out. Okay, now we got the software to cooperate. We actually have to figure out what we're going to do. I have on there a piece to make some tops, but I'm going to, if you were here like 2 weeks ago, I did a little platter. And as things would always go, the outside of it come out all right, which you already got to see that part. But when we hollowed out the inside, I got a little carried away. Be a good, easy, simple way of putting it that I went through the bottom, which was not a good thing. So maybe we'll just do another one. I'm gonna clean the airbrush all up. So that's a plus, I guess. Plus would have been to have marked the back side of that as well, but we didn't do that. That's all right. We'll just kind of wing it from there. And get rid of the point on the live center so I can move this thing around. Just do a little manipulation. I'll just take and hold on to it. Hold on to it's a better suggestion. Put on the point, bring the tailstock up. Just give it a little bit of pressure. And some lights on. That's pretty good. That's a scary thought. Don't too often get it on there right the first time. It's always a lucky day. So you could zoom out a little bit so you could actually see something. Move the other one about. Not really think that's going to show you much. Doesn't show you less yet. Want to go to there. Kind of zoomed in a bit far. Let's see if we can adjust that a bit. Yeah, we can go to wide. There. So we'll just take in, since this is the bottom, we'll just take somewhere out here and give it a fairly good sized tenant, just a small, shallow tenant. Just to be able to grab it, and then I want to, basically I'm going to turn around and do the top side the same way. I'm going to give it a little tenant because I want total access to this bottom side. This piece is anything but in balance at this point. Far enough that way. That'll be fine. This is deeper than, it's thicker material than what I really need for a platter anyhow. Especially one of this size. So now we can just grab this. And then this is actually going to be the top. So we'll just true up this face. And we'll basically get another tenon up here. We'll true up this face and this face a little bit. And we'll get another tenon on there to be able to work on the back. It's a little extra step, but it works pretty well. Makes life a little bit easier, I think. If I change something, we'll always start out slow. Bring the speed up. Like I say, it's not going to be in balance because all they did was whack the corners of this thing off. So until we get it somewhere relatively balanced, I have to just keep things a little slow. And we'll basically rinse and repeat over. So we'll mark a tenon on this side. Same thing again. We'll dish out a little bit of material. Make sure I got a nice clean corner in there. And a flat surface to grab it from. Now one more flip around and we're ready to ready to rock and roll and all that good stuff. Then we'll true it up and go from there. Grab the right chuck key. Flip it around, run the grain with the jaws as best as I can. Give me the best grip, most uniform grip, put it that way. Now we'll true up this outside. And I'll probably bring a tailstock back up just for the sake of why not. Better safe than sorry. Just a little pressure. And now we're going to take care of these corners out here. At this point, we're still pretty slow. Not really too concerned at the end if it strips a little bit out because it's going to go away anyhow. But if I slow down, it won't chip. Not quite there yet. I'm sure if there's a chunk missing. Okay. So that's that. So now it's ready to go. I've always done the platters with a recess because kind of that's how I was taught to do them. This is small. So what would happen if we actually put a foot on it? Well, there's a little place it's not quite round yet. I'm trying to remember that. Just about there though. So now we've gotten rid of the tailstock altogether. And now we can work on getting our base where it belongs. Still not going to let us run whatever we want yet. Because we're missing a big chunk out here. Maybe. We should even do a different. Do like a shallow bowl with a big wide rim. That might look interesting. So that's a 3-inch jaws. What happens if we go to 4? I think that's going to be entirely too big. One of them deals where you wish they made one in between that, but they don't. I think these are going to be entirely too big of a foot as far as I'm concerned. That'd be pretty hefty. Mark it once, see what it looks like. think I'll just round that corner off. See what it appears to be. Probably have to remark that because I got like 4 lines on there now. And they'll all be a circle. They just don't meet. So here's where you can have another bit of an issue. But we're going to get rid of this corner at least. Shouldn't move the tailstock when it's running either. Well, if he's just smooth, I don't get too concerned about it. We're going to have to turn the dust collector, you know. This is ash. Ash is habitually dusty. Kind of in between one of them two. We'll just mark the outer one. See what it looks like from there. I think we'll stick with the. Nice to be somewhere in between them two. Let's keep on working our way back. I guess eventually it could be just a little flat. Put a bowl in there. Always a possibility of measuring things a little bit. So we're 8.5, let's call it 9, so 3. Yeah, something like that would work alright, I guess. Give it a whirl. That would probably look alright. So it's about 3 1/4, so it's still a little. Keep brushing that off. I'm not going to mic flying. And the tool rest up a little bit so that we were pitched downhill. Scraper is sharp, so. I think that'll probably look alright. We definitely have a little bit of a curve inward there. Not much of a curve. Yeah, I gotta clean it up a bit. This should do it. Just a tiny little curve will make that sit up off the table. This will go away. That sits up off the table nice and neat. Nice and clean. No torn grain or anything like that. So using these scrapers, they kind of spoil you because that's should be able to do just that with the gouge. The same way. Okay, so that's our outside shape. See all this messing around. I got to clean up the rim a little bit. And then we'll give this a brief little bit of sanding up here. Get rid of the razor blade. Make sure this is a little concaved in there so that we know where it's going to be when we're done. The other thing would be a good time to make a point in the center. Rest it a bit high. We'll leave a little dimple, then leave a very good dimple. So a skew is probably a better choice. It'll work good enough. That's a quick way of dolling the skew to jam it into the heat duct that's above my head. It's metal, of course. I guess since the dust collector is already running, it might as well. Let's go ahead and get that out of the road and give that a quick once over sanding wise. Uh, Just use a 2-inch disc on this one. A little bit handier for me right there. I'm going to spin it in reverse. It does a better job for me dust collection wise. That's 120 as far as sanding grit goes. Looked like there was some lines in there. That's why I wanted to stop and feel. Looked like there is some. Looks like that's gotten them. If only if I could get the people in my classes to understand the sanding part a little better. I want to try and sand things to death. It's all part of learning. Once we have the homeworks and any imperfections gone, the rest of it's just a matter of going over it with each grit and getting rid of the unwanted scratches from the previous grit. That's up to 400, which is more than enough. There's a little bit of something. Like a little place that I must have stopped or hesitated or something there. It's kind of weird. Since we've turned it into a bowl, maybe we'll just take and turn the whole thing dark. Maybe use two different colors. Maybe use a different color on the back side versus the front side. Might look interesting. I think while we got it there, though, we might as well put a little color on it, which, of course, color choice is going to be black. Before we spray any dye on it, we're going to spray it with alcohol. The dye that I'm using is alcohol based, so we'll give it a little spray of alcohol to start with. That will open up the pores for me. Doesn't have to be super wet. Got it wetter than what it probably needed to be, but it dries very, very quickly. Now it opened up the pores. And now we can go ahead and turn it black. See if I can get it black enough with just dye rather than using airbrush and some black shellac, which I can do, but I can do it this way. I'm going to do it this way this time. If we can get it black enough. Not really. Black is one of them colors. It's either a really dark, what's my choice? Dark blue, dark purple. In this case, you can see it's mixing with the already sort of the yellowish color in the ash. And it's really sort of coming out more purple than black. We'll go over it one more time, see what we get. It's probably going to be dark enough. This one I don't know that I need it really a super pure black. Definitely has lots of big open grain, which is what I want to be able to fill it. That'll do. And just go around and wipe any excess off. Give it a little spin, let it dry a little bit. I'm going to put a little thin coat of shellac over top of it. This time I think I can cheat a little bit. Yes, I got my airbrush clean, and I sort of want to keep it that way for the moment. bring the speed up. We're up just under 500 RPMs at this point. I'm going to put this is just a bottle of black. It's just the Zinsser Seal Coat, which is the de-wax shellac. And it's very thin to start with. So if I take and put that on a little bit of that on my paper towel and just gently go across the surface, just to give it, what I'm trying to do is seal the upper part of the surface and a little bit down into the open parts, but not a lot, which is where the airbrush comes into play better than putting it on by hand, but we'll find out. Look like I got it quite covered well enough yet. Because it should be fairly shiny to start with. I think that'll do it. This is one of these processes, if it doesn't work at this point, it wouldn't work. I can always cut it back off and try again. And this really thin shellac like that dries very, very quickly, even though I put it on with a paper towel. The other thing is with the paper towel, that paper towel now is laying over the edge of the garbage can so that we don't have an issue with self-combustion. I'm going to bring a speed up, still using a paper towel. I'll lightly go over the surface and sort of burnish the shellac into drying a little quicker. It's also going to pull some back off, which is fine. That should actually make it to where the dust is not going to stick to it. Hopefully. So that should work for that. We probably should give that 10 minutes or so to set up and dry. So I need to make tops. We got a craft show at the end of the month. Okay, it's the first. Yeah, at the end of the month. So there's where we're at so far. It's been blackened. And then we use some of the iridescent fillers on that once we get that far. Right now we'll just do, this piece will make actually two tops. While that's setting up, try and be productive. I haven't been very productive all weekend as far as that goes, so I might as well at least get something accomplished. This blank is sort of a little bit longer than what I would like to do with the tops. It just means I have to be a little bit more gentle. I was playing around doing some of this with the skew yesterday. Again, the masters of the skew would say, you just got to keep practicing, but you also got to be productive. And I did not change my camera or move the camera over here, so I'm going to give this a quick sharpening. Won't be able to take you along for that ride tonight. I've been working on some stuff from my daughter. So there was a lot of stuff got moved around. namely the camera for the grinder, and the grinder needs to be moved so that I have the length on this bench where it sits. Not real exciting stuff sharpening tools anyhow, but you keep up with the edge and have an understanding when it gets dull, where it only takes one or two swipes across the grinder, and we're back to a nice fresh edge and ready to rock and roll. I think my glove had a hole in it. I got a black finger, so that's a pretty good indication that, yeah. So I did the end of this one a little bit with the skew. It really doesn't overly thrill me. For one, this is hard maple. You need to screw the top of that off a little bit. Make one fell swoop across with the bowl gouge. Use the heel or the back of the bowl gouge and sort of smash that point down a little bit. Round that over just a bit. And get rid of some material. This is gonna don't want to fatter on me with it being this far out. So that means we need to slow down a little bit. A little bit smaller bite. So, I need my spindle gouge. So put a little detail down in there. Won't take it too thin. We won't have any support. Got a little touch there. Little 320 sandpaper. I don't do ads. This is the only sanding I try to do. I only do for the tops. It's where patience is a virtue. So if you learn a little bit of patience there and work on your cutting skills, so to speak. Now we'll put a little texture in here, and then we'll give it a little color on the back. Things first, it's not far enough down. Right there. I want to be able to get in there fairly far. The texturing tool. There's where it sort of becomes an issue of how thin is too thin. But once again, if you have a little bit of patience, this is a Sorby texturing tool. It only likes to run about 500 RPM, so it's very slow. It has no bearing, so it's just a brass bushing in there. So you don't want to go very fast with it anyhow, or it'll mess it up. So we can get in there and get it to engage. Just to spin, we'll rotate over a little bit. Come up a little ways. Back to square. Rotate a little bit. That should give us an interesting little spiral pattern in there, which it did. Gave it a little separation between them as well. And then there, you can't see what I'm doing, but I'll show you once we get it done. Do red, orange. Got a whole ton of these markers. Got them for practically nothing as far as that goes. The whole bag of them for like $3. So it's kind of like the bargain of the day. Once again, we're going to leave our speed down because we don't want to disintegrate our markers. And we'll separate the two colors with a line of black, as well as the very bottom. Kind of a good skill builder kind of a project too, for somebody new and starting out. Because the idea here is to not sand. Clean up that surface there because I'm going to have to make an entry cut up here. And then we'll start trimming it down. Cutting just behind the nose of the tool. This is a top, spinning top at the moment. I'm waiting for some shellac to dry on the other project, the real project of the day. A very, very light touch if you go back like I just did, which is a little bit further back than where I should go. Well, it's funny you should say that because that's one of the things. Our turning club, we have a what they call a farm show. It's just what it sounds like. It originally was all farm equipment. I mean, there's still plenty of farm equipment there and things like that. But our turning club goes and demonstrates. It's a week long. I was only able to attend, go one day, I guess it was this year. This is all, right here is all I did for basically about 4 hours or 5 hours, straight through. One right after the other, because the kids just love them. Surprisingly enough that the young kids of today even know what they are, but they do. I sit my hand down on the jaws. So there's what they look like on the top side. Some of the times I will actually decorate them on the bottom too, but it's kind of a waste to decorate them on the bottom in some ways, as far as I'm concerned. But and they spin good. That's why I smashed the little bit on the end. We're gonna do another one quick like because I need to have. Like I say, we're going to a craft. I take these to a craft show too, as well. So you're not going to get rich making them, but if you sell, people seem to like them. The little older ladies, a lot of times, which is what sort of attends a lot of the craft shows, need something to do or whatever. But they all have grandkids, and you see them, and of course that kind of, I guess, maybe sort of brings them back a little bit to their childhood, maybe or something. A little longer point. Use the back of the gouge, smash that point down so that it's not so sharp of a point. Again, we'll clean this up back through here a little ways. What I'm doing is laying the gouge over on its side. I'm cutting up in this area. It's basically like a shearing cut. Be just like using a skew or something along those lines. Like I say, for somebody that's starting out, turning, you're a very good project because there's a lot of entry cut. I heard a sound. I actually have it over on YouTube. But it probably would be, I really haven't taken any initiative to make any pupils that I teach classes at my local woodcraft store, wood turning classes. This is something that I should be taking the material and whatnot along and have them make a top. Maybe they would get a better understanding of the entry cuts and things that out of the guide. Like I say, there's no, even when I do them all day long, there's still no part of it that I sand except this little bit right here on the very top of this. And just get rid of them little fuzzies. The rest of this, the front and the back is all ingrain, so if you cut it properly, there's no need to sand it, for one. And number two, it is ingrain, so it's very difficult to sand. Just a little room. A little V cut down to the base. Be nice and clean. Clean up here as I like. We're going to texture it anyhow. Because I like playing with my texturing tool, for one. Should be able to get in there at that. You were here earlier. This is the mini Sorby. I do have the big one, but I don't really like the big one for the top. This is the mini one. This also has no bearing in it, so about 500 RPMs is where you want to be, or even a little less with this. So if we go in there and start straight up and down, it'll actually leave me a little V groove in the bottom. As I move away from that V groove, turn it over a little bit on its side. So nice and slow. And just sort of rinse and repeat. This size, we're only going to get about 2 areas of texture. And a little bobble in the first one, but you know, kids aren't going to know the difference. Most people won't know the difference. So we did a blue and green. So again, this is sort of a lot about doing repetitive stuff. Leave the speed down. I'm going to use, these are actually a Tombow marker. These are a water-based one that I got at it was like a yard sale type thing at a scrapbooking store. And evidently somebody that was into the scrapbooking or something, I guess they didn't like them. I'll show you the whole bag that I bought in a second once I get them all colored in. And we'll separate the two with a line of black. But it just sort of highlights them, I think. That's sort of enough. Pops. So we get back to our project. So I bought this whole bag for $3. These Tombow markers are, I don't know about the water-based ones, but I know years ago I bought a set of them that are, I don't know, whatever the base is on them. Probably some sort of an alcohol or something like that. And they were very expensive. They were like $40 for a set of them. So when I saw them laying there at $3, like I scarfed them right up. And of course the wife comes along and says, "What do you buy?" And I'm like, and I showed her and she goes, "Oh my gosh." I'm like, I can see why you would buy them. And they're water based, so they're sort of a little bit more friendly to the kids that might pick them up and use them. The thing is, with their water based, if they have water on their fingers, it's one of the things that my wife was saying about that. Got to try and figure out something to maybe give them a little bit of a sealer or something. As you said, they're, the water, since they are water based, the water reactivates them. But like when I do them at the farm show, it's really all about how fast you can do them, not they turn some kid's finger colors, then okay. Just step back and look and try and keep the handles. Somewhere along the line, somebody that was making tops said about keeping the handles shorter. They spin better. Less chance of being out of balance. Very, very light touch if you go back there. It starts to chatter almost immediately. You just keep making little itty bitty cuts around that corner over nice. And the important, sort of the really important part is to actually cut it clean enough. And I don't have to pick up a piece of sandpaper and touch up the end. I usually do when I'm at the farm show because we don't necessarily have the like the lighting setup that I do here. But as you can see, I mean, it's starting to wobble a little bit, but I'm down to about a 1/16 of an inch of material down there. So it is well balanced. And actually, if we cut the whole way through it, then it's nice and clean on the bottom. If we take the time and patience, and there we go. I guess if you really, really wanted to make them super fancy, you could even do. I've seen some people take and spray like a seal coat on, or what we're going to do here in just a minute, and put some grain filler or something like that in. But there it is. This is sort of a basic top. Spins nice and free. You can't see it, but I spin it on the bedways to make sure it's going to work. They will actually spin on this top as well. There's the only place that you might want to take a tiny bit of sandpaper and just make sure there's no little fuzzies on the top. But like I say, they're definitely a favorite at the farm show that I go to for the club. I mean, didn't really keep a very good track this year how many I made, but I think I had taken about 25 or 30 blanks along with me. But there ended up being some of the blanks were just like this one. They were actually long enough to do two. So I figured I made somewhere around 40 or so tops in my 4 hours or so that I was there, which was pretty good. And it's fun. Kids like it. Some of the parents like it. They're just tickled that somebody's actually going to make something in front of them and turn around and hand it to the kid or a kid. That's usually the problem is that there'll be a bunch of kids standing there. This year my wife didn't come along. She had something else to do. Normally she would go along and she'd like hand out numbers or something like that so that you know somebody didn't get their toes stepped on because they gave it to the wrong kid or something. But let's go back to our piece. And the shellac is now dry. Not super. I mean, it's dry to the touch, but it certainly isn't hard dry. Let's see, I got last week. I got some more of these Guild creams. This is a teal purple. The other one is a gold green. Let's use the teal purple once. See what that does. Get a fresh glove. By all rights, to do these, it probably would be much better off to do this and let it sit overnight, even till the next day, to make sure that the shellac is nice and hard and all that good stuff. But I don't usually have that kind of patience. Right, some days, but not many. I did one 2 weeks ago on stream that wasn't totally thrilled how it came out. You get rid of the first little bit out of the tube. I think that might have been part of my problem with that one. Like I say, this is a Chromacraft Chroma Guild. This is Chameleon. It's a teal purple. It says. So we'll see what it does. Oh wow! Wait, that makes it Yeah, I like that color. I like it when they come out nice and bright. Using a gloved hand, I mean, you could do any of this stuff really without the glove. The glove actually makes it slide across the surface, I think, a little easier. And it keeps you from getting colored fingers. Yeah, you got to use it. If you're going to do this process, it's got to be on an open grain wood. There's several out there. This just happens to be ash. It's what I had sitting close. I like working with the ash. Unfortunately, it's going to go pretty much getting to where it's non-existent around here now because the ash borer has killed all the trees. I have enough to keep me busy for a while though. That's one of them that I didn't. Somebody had some, they wanted to get rid of it or whatever. I was all about taking it. I can store it. Some's inside, some's outside, but it can sit there and be on its merry little way and get dry. This is actually some 8-quarter lumber that I had purchased a couple years ago, which was already dry when I bought it. Now it's just extra dry, which is why when we go back to the inside and start turning more on the inside, I'll have to turn the dust collector on because it is very, very dusty. Hard and dusty is the name of it. This is something I would kind of like to do for a class too at Woodcraft, but they don't sell these, the grain fillers. So it's kind of like wouldn't be very nice to do a class that people couldn't, they're going to say, well, where can I buy that? Well, you can't buy it here in the store. So it'd be kind of dumb in a way. I go in circles and what I'm trying to do and go in different directions. You see, I went back over that one place, trying to shove it down into that grain, the open part of the grain, to fill it in. And then we'll take and fold our paper towel over. You can let it set up a little bit. You don't want to let it set up too much because I want to be able to get the excess off. Here I'm not going to put very much pressure on it because I'm going to pull a bunch of it back off otherwise. I just want to leave what's in the grain in the grain. You can see it. Ooh. And of course there's going to be places where there was excess on there. So we just smear it around, wiping it off with our paper towel. So they don't really, that's kind of the downfall of not letting the shellac dry as far as it should have. Probably a little bit sticky yet. So it means we'll have to work a little bit harder to get some of this back off. It's not the end of the world with this stuff. It is I think a mineral spirit based product. So if it doesn't come off the way I want it to, like right there, I might just take a little bit of mineral oil on my rag, my paper towel, and we will clean that off. It wouldn't look very nice. It also sort of thins that stuff. The stuff is already pretty thin, but going over it with just a little bit of mineral oil makes it even thinner and lets it suck down into them pores even better. So that's that. A little hard. It doesn't necessarily show up very good on the camera. That's the only kind of the only bad part of it, so to speak. Give that a spin, let it dry a little bit. And then we're going to flip it around and hollow some of the inside out. I'm going to leave this as a sort of a wide rim. See if I can get it to reflect in the, what did I say it was? Teal purple. So you can really see the teal shows up better than the purple on camera, but it definitely highlights all the grain, which is what I wanted to do. But of course, this will go away eventually. So we'll flip it around and do the inside. And we're going to figure out how big of a rim. I'm thinking we'll probably leave, we'll flatten it out and then we'll go from there. Probably leave about an inch or so of rim. So I apologize for the noise, but we're going to go back to our dust collection because I know this stuff is very, very dusty. There, now really got to think about what I want an inch. This is all about more interested in having sort of a fancy looking rim rather than making it more functional. Close the flute, you dumbass. Just going to get rid of a little bit of material right in here. Not much. And we're going to give this a little bit of a taper inward. You can actually do that probably easier with a scraper rather than a gouge. Wonders of watching YouTube and watch Richard Raffin and some of the other people that love their scrapers. They do work. Give it just a slight bit of a hint of curvature. Beautiful little wispy shavings come off of them when they're sharp and presented right to the material. Now break that edge with a sandpaper rather than a tool. course, now we're going to give it a quick sand. That's smooth enough. We certainly are not. I'm not going to start with 120. We'll start with 150. Slow our speed down. I do spin it in reverse. As you'll see, it does a much better job of dust collection for me. And then we'll just cruise through the grits. Use a use an old paintbrush to get the dust out of the grooves. More importantly, get rid of any grit that might be left behind. And go grab the wrong piece of sandpaper and go backwards. That always helps. Doesn't like standing with 240 and then go back to 180. I defeated the purpose a bit. That's all there is to that part. I think the outside actually could have been a little bit blacker than what it is. As I said earlier, I usually use an airbrush to put that on. To put the shellac and inevitably the black shellac. Being lazy tonight and didn't feel like having to deal with cleaning that up. It's pretty easy to clean, but I just did a sort of a deep clean on it. Let's try the other black. I have two different blacks. The first one, the one that I used on the back was actually a sort of a homemade black, whereas you're just using the trans tint dye and alcohol. This is manufactured. This is Chestnut Spirit Stains, which already has a little bit of shellac in it. Should have used that to start with, I guess. So that did a better That did a better job right from the start. It will soak in. Should have sprayed it with alcohol first. A lot of times if I'm going to use alcohol-based dyes, a lot of times I will actually spray it with alcohol, let it sit for a minute or two, opens the pores back up so it accepts all the goodies. That actually looked like that, turned it nice and black. So we'll have to give that a couple minutes to dry. This is where this process becomes a bit time consuming because you're waiting for things to dry. Yeah, alcohol-based dyes dry very, very quickly. They also can be very dangerous in a workshop because they are alcohol. So we want to be mindful of what we do with the rags or the paper towels. In my case, they're draped over the side of the trash can, opened up. They'll be dry, totally dry to the touch in about 10 or 15 minutes. So we really don't have much of a fire risk, so to speak. At least not a self-combusting kind of a fire risk. Of course, if you were to drop something hot or flammable on top of that, why then they would be. Give it a little burnish. The alcohol probably, maybe, possibly raise some grain. It's not quite as black as what I would like it. Go over it one more time. Or not bother with it. Because what I found, if I do it with the airbrush, like I said, I'm just being lazy tonight. Normally I would do it with the airbrush. I would just do the black, and then the next thing I have here is some black shellac. It's nothing more than just a de-waxed steel coat shellac. So it's a very thin shellac. It also has black dye in it. So that is very black in color. Yeah. So just let that spin. Probably got a little bit more on than what I wanted. He's trying. And also I got some up over the edge that I don't want. Got any snow up there? Yeah. One of these. Yeah, we haven't got much around here. I'm in Pennsylvania. We had one little bit of a snowstorm. That's about it. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's here in Pennsylvania. It's only going to be like 30 couple tomorrow or something like that for a high. I think what I should do with this is just take it off and do something else for a little bit. Yeah, well, it was nice here all week too. Yeah, we had some 50-degree weather and stuff today or this week, and then it turned cold. Okay, I'm just gonna set that off to the side. I'm gonna do something else for a little bit. wash it. And you were supposed to throw that glove away. I already got black on my finger. Got a black finger now. And surprisingly enough, that the alcohol-based dye does not come off your fingers very well, even though I'm going to use some alcohol on it. But it'll take days for that to actually totally come off your finger. Of course, trying to clean it off, you get more elsewhere, but that's about it. Yeah, I guess. I don't like to be that much of a working man, but I know what I'm going to do. I have some, just keep playing around with little things. That way I won't get distracted and go get too carried away. Because we sort of have gotten into a little bit of a new adventure, I guess you'd say. Not venture, adventure. Um, During the week, my work days are fairly long, so I don't have any time to sort of come down here and do little things like the tops or mushrooms or anything like that. And I sort of blame Way Cool Wood for putting the thought of trying to do a little bit of carving with a knife. So I found there is a guy at the woodcraft store where I teach at that is a master carver and teaches classes on that. So we're starting. I'm not. Turn that last piece black and select it. Now we're going to make a mushroom in between. Mushroom that I'll probably take upstairs. When you start carving these little, I don't know, little character things. Now I can do that sitting in the easy chair in the living room without getting in too much trouble. I have an old shop apron now that I'm using that lays down across my lap and out on the arms of the chair, so I don't get all the little chips that you're cutting with a knife. They kind of stay where they belong on the apron. And all I gotta do is walk out to the garbage can. Usually walk out to the big garbage can and just literally open it back up and they all fall into the garbage can. Otherwise, I'd have to be like running the sweeper every night. And I don't want to do that either. And it's sort of a project that I can work on, 10 or 15 minutes here and there, like during the week. So it's kind of entertaining. But I wanted to do some mushrooms so that I had something different rather than trying to carve little characters. And the real thought is to use some of the accent colors and stuff like that on them as well. Tool rest that doesn't like to stay tight. Nice, easy way to get rid of the corners. Makes really neat looking shavings. guess I'm not quite high enough. Oh, not quite there. Yeah, I hear you. Yep, I hear you. Did I miss something and not answer you? Hopefully not. If I did, you show at me. One piece is probably a little bit too long for what I'm thinking of. 7 inches. Mm, mm, yeah, let's see if it cooperates. Certainly done it on that end, though. This is a piece of white birch. Been around for quite a while. It's pretty much dry. I use it for different stuff like this. I didn't put a tenon on it because I'm going to grab it. I knew that I had the sharp jaws on this chuck. I'll just grab it in the jaws. I'm going to put the tool right down at that end there. I cleaned up that face. So it'll go the whole way in. It should sit fairly well. Bring a tailstock up to make sure it's centered. And then we'll just grip it that way. For this one, when I go to do the other half of it, when I cut this one off, I'll put a little tenon down here to be able to grab it. Kind of a cheater's way. Once again, it's sort of watching some of the some of the people that are very fast at things they do, which is Richard Raffin. He does this all the time. Like, it's not really the greatest way to do things in some ways, but there again, if you're making, back in the day, he was making money doing this, so the faster he can do it, the more money he could make. Let me bring my tool rest where I wanted it to, but it's fairly close. Of course, his opinion is you just true it up a little bit, which is what we'll do. I'm just using the wing of the bowl gouge. Does it just about as good a job as what the skew would do. We certainly could do all this with the skew, but kind of lazy when it comes to that one. And it's sort of giving it sort of a big dome top. That little bit down there will be waste. Could we give it curve out inward and then upward? Mm. This is another one of them projects. There is no right or wrong shape. I don't think you'd probably be hard pressed to go out and find two mushrooms in nature that look the same. Get back to the bowl gouge to remove more. The reason I go back to the bowl gouge is I want to be able to remove material quicker, more efficient. You'd be better off using that was a half-inch spindle gouge. It's not going to turn quite the radius that I need in there. So we'll go to a smaller one. We should be able to get rid of that. Just like if you were here earlier and watching me do the top, I keep going in there and cutting across the grain until it slices it off the end. And we don't tear out little bits of fiber in the end. What is that? Not, this doesn't feel smooth. Just some little chatter marks there. The spindle gouge might not be as sharp as what it could be. Just go to there. Pick up the big one, which I know is sharp. A little bit far away from the chuck too, doesn't help. Also being a little heavy-handed there, but this stuff here sands so easily. I'm not going to be too concerned about it. Get rid of a little more material here. And get rid of our live center. And I'll just go ahead and give that a quick little once-over sanding wise. These do not have to be by any means super fancy. These are either going to get painted or something textured and then painted. So if I was to sand to my normal, even like 400 or so, then it becomes too smooth that the paint doesn't stick to them very well. And my wife will yell at me because she's generally the one that paints these. I'm not a painter. Trying to come up with some sort of master kind of thought on that. So that the cap's about 1.5 inches. Let's make the base more about 2 inches. So down in about there. The easiest thing to do would be just take a parting tool, cut down in here a little bit. That way we know where it's going to end. Get rid of that little razor blade there before I touch it. Be a little careful when I go up underneath there. Once it turns far enough, it's headed into end grain. That's going to be a nice squeal. A little bit too much hanging it over. Sorry about that. That's a sign there's too much material hanging. We're best end of 8. It's probably 10 inches away from the headstock, and there's no support out here. So one or two things. Number one is I'm trying to push a little bit harder than maybe I should. And do things left-handed. It's not always my forte. Could get some material out of there first. I like them to be undercut because most mushrooms would have an underside. So I try and get it undercut at least a little bit. If you go to if I can find it. There it is. It's actually what they would consider a detail gouge. Has a much shallower flute. The angle that this one has been sharpened at is considerably longer. than my normal ones. So it's going to let me get up underneath there without smacking my fingers on the chuck or anything like that. So now I'm probably about a half an inch up in there. Get rid of this little razor blade. Then I go back here. This is probably, to me, it looks a little considerably fatter than what it should. You just kind of keep wandering back and forth on this stuff. Kind of flatten it out a little bit. Take a step back. Yeah, okay. See if we can make a smaller radius down here than what I had originally. That way our bulb shape can be a little bit closer to the bottom. Yeah, I think that'll work. Of course, the tricky part is actually get up underneath, because we will have to do that left-handed. You just have to make sure that when I get up there, that the flute is totally closed. Otherwise, you might will grab a hold because you're going in end grain. Stuff actually sort of burns if you put too much pressure on it, which is what I was doing right there. But like I say, I'm not left-handed, so you could just use my little one. It'd be easier. In fact, it'd be easier if I switched to one that I know that is sharp. That first one is about seeing its life expectancy as well. And once the flute's totally closed up in there, it did a little squeal, but it will allow you to use it as a negative rate scraper, basically, up in something like that. Not really seeing the shape down here that I would like to, for some reason. Like I say, there's no right and wrong as far as that goes. So we'll just give him a little bit of a sand up into there. Now the question is, I really don't like to part things off. In this case, I don't. If I'm going to get another one out of that end, I'm going to have to. So let's do it that way. I'm going to go in at a bit of an angle to undercut it so that it only sits out on the rim. And my cut that's up against the bottom of the mushroom is only going to be about a 16th of an inch wide, as well as I'm putting force on the parting tool going that way because when this is ground, this becomes a sharp edge up here, so it sort of scrapes a little bit. Some woods work better than others, of course, but stay away from the very center little ways. I'd rather leave a little nubbin sticking up. I'd rather leave this sitting here. This is just as easily sanded away. And there we have a little mushroom. We'll go upstairs here in just a little bit and we'll make some little scallops or something with carving chisels. Give them a little texture. Well, I had a couple of these already made for the wife. She painted these a color and then put little like white dots all over them. They look kind of cute. Yeah, like me, so cute. Funny guy. Okay, now while I'm here, so I just make a little tenon on that end, and another day we can do another mushroom with that. We're going to get back to our project. Make sure we're right. Should be right. Yep, good enough. That'll give us enough for some sort of a shaped mushroom. So I have another one of those quick and easy type projects for the craft show world. It also gives you some availability to, and a lot of it's all working on your tooling technique and things like that as you go along. Make sure you keep in tune with all that. Put a couple things away here. And then our bowl should be dry. And we'll put our grain filler on that. And that's probably going to be it for tonight. It's 10 after 8, so I normally try and stick to about the 2 hour mark. Boy, that's sliding. It seems like we need a little more wax. Yeah. Anything wrong with the big chucks? Are heavy. Give it that last little flick at the end. Dry enough. So over to there. Bring that in a little closer. You know, see a little bit more, a little better. There we go. Guess I don't want to mix colors, so we'll just go to a new glove. This time we'll go green. Green gold is what this one is called. Got a symposium in Tennessee a couple weeks ago. There was somebody there selling these. And there was something I wanted to try, but I haven't been back to any symposiums. And I hate to pay shipping, so I didn't buy any. You know, that's got some real sparkle in it. I guess it's going to be what you call heavy on the gold. Definitely. Hope that shows up. Yeah, doesn't do too bad. Of course, there's going to be a section in the middle where there's very little, not much grain going to be there. When I originally bought some of this stuff, it's like, you know, this teeny tiny little tube of stuff. I mean, it's only, I don't know, maybe 2.68 fluid ounces. The stupid little tube of stuff costs $20. It's like, really? And it's like, this is going to make things cost a small fortune to be playing around doing this stuff. But the original couple tubes I bought, the other ones, the normal non chameleon ones or whatever they call it, just their plain Guild cream are about $17 a tube. But shoot, I bought them tubes of that stuff quite a few years ago. I mean, you use so very little of it. Maybe if you did something really big with them or something, maybe, but try not to introduce anyone to the back. Not that it would matter. I mean, you certainly could sort of like mix and match this stuff a little bit. So we'll just buff the surface and get the excess off. Not play around this time and let it set up like it did on the outside. And you can see as I move it around in the light, it's definitely changing from that green to a gold. You just keep spinning around because you're moving things around places that I can go. I don't go with the grain, at least very little of it, because I want to leave it down in the grain. But there's always some places that it finds something to stick to. It gave it some character. It's a shame there's just not much grain there in that one place, but it'll make it look interesting. Give you very limited instructions on using this stuff. Just give it a spin, let it dry. But it is an oil, it is some sort of an oil-based product. At least it smells like it anyhow. I don't know if it even really tells you. Combustible, yeah, so it's got contains petroleum distillants. But again, one other thing that will um, color your fingers quite well too. That's why I always wear. The glove makes it slide across, I think, easier, but we'll just give that a little second to dry. Unfortunately, this is one of the places that I cannot use my normal super glue finish on this stuff. It just doesn't work. It actually will dissolve the grain filler. I've tried it a couple of times. So this is pretty much I put a coat of shellac on it, and then it will get lacquered from there. It's a little light coat of shellac over top. And hopefully we didn't wipe it off. Nope, this made it nice and shiny. Yep. Once again, I'm being lazy. There's another place that I will use the airbrush, the spray. Spray the shellac on. I will dirty up the airbrush maybe tomorrow night or something or other to get home in time. And I'll spray all. I use a water-based lacquer, so I'll spray the back and this front with 2 or 3 coats of lacquer. It's actually a high gloss lacquer, no less. You could definitely do the same thing with just a rattle can. Just that I have the stuff from building furniture days, so what I've sort of got accustomed to using. This will not dry. No, still sticky. I say if I had more time, we could actually do the inside of the bowl, but this is where it's best to stop and actually literally put the lacquer on the back and the front. Inside, I'll use my super glue finish anyhow, but um, we can't we can't get rid of the inside just yet. So there it is. little exercise and fill in some grain again. I need to take a picture of it so I can put that on the YouTube. I like that color though. I think that's nice. I like that one better than the one on the back. I like the bright colors. I'm a fan of the bright colors. Even though it's sort of, the green is coming out more so than the gold, I think. But it's probably going to be determined by what kind of light is available. Because if I turn it straight up and down, then it sort of goes green to gold. And the back is teal to whatever the other color was supposed to be. That's it. That'll work for tonight. Not that we got a whole lot accomplished, but we got a little bit done. So first order of business, I will end the YouTube stream. And we should be back to every Saturday night now, hopefully. At least for a couple weeks until I have another class. Usually around 6 p.m. Eastern time. And we try and do something different every week. Generally what I need to work on usually, but so stop back again.